Hi everyone, welcome back into Primetime TV Show. We are here back again. I'm so excited because last week we had All Women Unscripted. That was a fun show. Hope you had a chance to see that. But today we have my husband back in the saddle again to talk about living healthy in an unhealthy world. We've done that before in seminars and workshops.
Right. Well, a lot of times when a world is unhealthy, there's a lot of opportunities.
Boy, there sure is. There really is. And we're going to be talking a lot about that today. I'm one of your hosts, Barbara Marville Kelly. Thank you so much for joining us. And with me is I don't even know how to introduce you sometimes because the list could be so long. So I'll just say Dennis Kelly, also known as Doc, here in the studio by the boys, and Kelly by everybody else. That's your branded name.
That's mine.
I know. We were talking about the show earlier, like we always do. We go over what we're going to be talking about and what we're seeing out there in the real world and what's happening with people and how they're feeling and what they're doing to help themselves or what they're not doing and just trying to raise the awareness on what we can do to help each one of you make a change in your life or just listen, see if something resonates with you. We don't know it all, believe me, but we know a lot about a lot, but we're always still learning. So we were discussing how we were going to do the show today, and living healthy in an unhealthy world is what came up for us. The reason being is what has been happening around the world, how people have been dealing with not only the world and its volatile times, it feels like it's upside down, but just generally getting on from one day to the next. So the one big thing that we wanted to talk about was how stress affects us all. And I know you're more of a master at stress than I am. I am the first one to admit it. Believe me when I tell you. But I can't tell you how many times I've heard my husband say that stress is the #1 cause for dis-ease and in many times premature death. And what we're going to lay out for you today is an easy way to understand things the way I understand things, the way we deliver in our workshops and our seminars, so that you can take these little bites of information and piece them all together rather than us go into all the clinical studies and going into protons and neutrons and all of this. I don't even know how to define all that, but to break it down so that it's easy to understand. And one of the things that's easy to understand is what to do about stress, because it's affecting us worse than ever before, even those of us that know how to master stress. Even we sometimes kind of like, it's like plumbers with leaky pipes. You've heard me say that before. So
stress backwards spells dessert.
I know, and I love that. But I'm going to turn over to you because this is your baby, Unstress. You had to learn the hard way on managing your emotions and really picking yourself up by the bootstraps after several different things that didn't go right in your life many, many years ago. So you turned them into a learning lesson, and you learned from them and moved on.
Right. Well, one of the big things that I was faced with, I was very angry in my childhood because of my stepfather, and my family had a lot of problems and challenges, and I was affected by those problems and challenges. But I didn't, for some reason, there was a little man inside of me, or woman, who knows, that didn't want me to keep that frame of mind, did not want me to go down the drain pipe with bad things. That's because of the fact that when I was in another situation, I was able to take success and turn it around into more success. In other words, building a good foundation is so important. And once you build a good foundation, then everything else comes easier. And so I went to work when I was quite young to build a good, strong, solid foundation in my life. And as a result, it did pay off in rich dividends. And I was somebody that would probably be the least likely to succeed in my class. And as a result, I was able to take that negative, turn into a positive, like stress spelled backwards is desserts. That's what I actually did with it. I looked for every opportunity, or I should say every tragedy there's an opportunity to do something to help somebody or do something constructive.
Exactly, exactly. And that's what you've done. You've taught me a lot about that. We're teaching our grandchildren how to learn how to manage their emotions as a result of all your training from Heart Math Institute. And many of you have tuned into the shows where we have talked about Heart Math, all based on science, and how our frequency levels make a difference in how we react or respond. We even had a few lessons of that ourselves over the weekend, actually.
Yeah, we sure did. We had a chance to test our barometer.
Boy, you're not kidding. And speaking of the barometer, there's certain things that my husband loves to talk about that will trigger your interest to just lean a little forward more so that you can get a little more information, because it will make a difference in your life. So some of the things that we're going to be talking about is the critical effects of unmanaged stress and unmanaged emotions. We see this every day. We see it on the news. We see it in politics. We see it on the playground. We see it in the schools. Do I need to take this list? I'll be here all day long, because it does affect us. And that's why we like to get up on our soapbox and talk about what we can do easily and effortlessly. If we just have the tools in our toolbox and we remember to pull those tools out, then we can manage our stress levels. So, my friend and colleague, best friend, husband, and all of that kind of good stuff, let's talk about it. What are the critical effects of stress and unmanaged emotions? Let's take us down that bunny hole. It's okay to do that here.
Yeah, I enjoy doing that anyway. Mm-hmm. Well, stress, it's a strange phenomenon in a sense that you can have stress and it can be one person, it could endanger their health, the other person, it could make them healthier. Mm-hmm. For example, if I was on Space Mountain in Disney World and I was on that, they call it the mouse or whatever, anyway, I was on the roller coaster. Ooh. I would be getting all sorts of bad stress because I hate that type of thing. I would not go on a roller coaster. I'd die of a heart attack. So that is one form of stress. And somebody sitting next to me could be getting high, positive, exciting endorphins in the body, make them feel good.
No doubt.
Yeah, and the one that's stressed out is producing a enzyme or nerve body, as you want to call it, it produces a substance called interleukin-2. Interleukin-2 is a very stressful hormone, or whatever, it fits in whatever category. It is very, very destructive. And it's when the body produces adrenaline, cortisol, and many other stress hormones. So the person sitting next to them could producing interleukin-6. And I just happened to realize I had them turned around. That well, it happens once in a while.
So explain that, though.
Interleukin-6 is a bad hormone. Interleukin-2 is a good hormone.
There you go.
So what it does is the interleukin-6, it sends out through the brain. And the brain then sends out each cell. If the person is negative and they don't change it within 5 minutes, then the brain sends out little enzymes that send soldier cells to the immune system. These soldier cells, they attack the body and they do terrible things to the body. However, when you do positive things, the brain sends neuropeptides in different frequencies to make you feel good and put out good motion.
So you just mentioned that 5 minutes, and that is really what made a difference in my life. When you told me that 5 minutes of stress that is unmanaged, unhandled, can put between, now this is just 5 minutes. How many 5 minutes in a day do any of us get stressed out, right? So that puts the chemicals that you're describing, almost like poison dripping into the system, for up to 6 to 8 hours.
Yeah, without fail.
For one 5-minute, whatever it is, you're mad about this, you're mad about that, you're stressed about this, you're stressed, and that becomes chronic. That becomes chronic stress. Why do we think there's so many people in the hospital? Because of that. Heart attacks, we're approaching we're in the holiday season right now. And my husband can give you a whole seminar on what not to do around the holiday season and what to do when it comes right down to eating your meal and eating high-fat foods, right? Just from that alone. In fact, why don't you tell them? It just came to me just now. It wasn't actually part of the show today, but all these things trigger all these things that you've taught me. So what if we could save somebody from a heart attack? If they've eaten gravy and turkey or beef, roast, and all of these fatty foods, what is it that there's so many heart attacks that happen in the middle of the night after they've done all that?
Well, eating fattening food like that is one of the things, but the major thing, the major stressor is things that you, for example, if you have a situation you're doing that is producing negativeness, and what you have to do is find out, in other words, find out a way to combat that negativeness. Now, there is a master stress reliever of the system, and this is the largest nerve in the body, called the vagus nerve. I know you're going to mention that. And after Barb gets through going through her, I wanted to make sure I didn't leave anything out, then I'll tell you more about it, because it's really, very few people know about this situation, about this vagus nerve. It's the largest nerve in the body. And you got to be nice to it, because if you're not, the vagus nerve through the brain sends out those stormtroopers that attack the cells and take away a lot of your youth and make us age a lot faster. So we'll discuss the vagus nerve, because that is one of the key secrets. And everything that's negative vibrates on a frequency that's negative, because everything is vibration. Everything is a circuit of vibration cells, atoms, and so on. And it all starts with the vagus nerve. Barb is going to give you a little rundown on it, and I'll fill in the blanks.
Well, actually, you're going to do all that rundown because you know way more than I do. But the reason why I wanted to talk about the vagus nerve today was that when you started talking about the research that you did on the vagus nerve during our Tai Chi classes, our students loved it. And you developed a exercise that we're going to show you that you can do to help stimulate the vagus nerve in a positive way. I had no idea, and the doctors are now talking about the vagus nerve. Ask your doctor, next time you go to your doctor or a friend or whatever, ask them if they know what the vagus nerve is. People are now becoming more in tune to it because of how important and critical it is to be healthy, that you don't trigger the vagus nerve to become your worst enemy, because it can actually help determine on how you're going to manage stress, how you're going to manage your emotions, and there are things that you can do about that vagus nerve guy, because it's very important. And you did that research a while back, so you've been teaching it in your Tai Chi classes.
Right.
And we'll show you this exercise. You can do it sitting down, and it's perfect. We'll talk about how it does stimulate the vagus nerve. But let's go into what exactly is it? It's the most important. Is it the most important nerve in the body?
Right. It can give us a death warrant, or it can give us a longer life and happiness, because the vagus nerve is the largest nerve in the body. It starts at the head, goes to the abdominal section. The vagus nerve is the barometer of the body. In other words, it lets the brain know what's going on in this body of ours. The problem or challenge with most people, which encompasses 75% of the population, unfortunately, they have a vagus nerve that's all messed up. What happens is the vagus nerve stores information, gives it to the brain assimilates it, does what it needs to do to compensate for what the vagus nerve has told them, or told it. And then the brain then sends information back to the vagus nerve on how to correct these situations. Unfortunately, most people don't know this. And give you a little example. There is a gene called a P53 gene. This is a cancer tumor fighting gene. It's a good guy. And it does a lot of good things. It gets rid of tumors that are cancerous or beginning to become cancerous, and it plays a big part in doing the good hormones and so on, infiltrating the body with the good hormones as opposed to the bad hormones. The challenge is when the vagus nerve gets overstimulated, that's too much junk, too many concepts, too many things going fast, and we don't handle it, and we turn inward with this feeling. It's like acid dripping in the system. And what happens is the vagus nerve sends in screwed up information to the P53 gene. P53 gene takes in turns and becomes a rogue gene in many cases. The rogue gene starts gobbling up or affecting negatively the good genes. So as a result, it's so important to keep that vagus nerve happy. And a lot of things Barbara was saying, one angry thought held for 5 minutes more. Boy, the vagus nerve sure hates that because it doesn't like to work overtime. And when most of you do that, this is the challenge. You don't know it's really a silent killer. So how do you fight that? Well, just take and learn how to relax. Learn how to breathe deeply. Learn how to handle stress in such a way to look for the benefit rather than the negative. Because you can have negative things can actually turn to be positive because they do some things that are very fortunate. So for example, if the vagus nerve gets overstimulated, then you start doing things like deep breathing, and there's a movement I'm going to show you in Qigong that is one of the most important movements because it's one of the few movements that within a few minutes you can be satisfying the gene, I should say the vagus nerve, you can be satisfying the vagus nerve, giving it good hormones, which send it back to the brain. So as a result, what you can do when you do this exercise is you can sit down in a chair and relax. Sometimes it's better to do it sitting than standing. Sometimes it works better doing it standing. But most of the time, seated for the average person is the most desirable or beneficial way of doing it. What you want to do is get yourself comfortable. Loose clothing. You don't want to have anything tight. You want to have loose clothing. In fact, you're better off doing it with no clothes, but I wouldn't recommend it that you don't go overboard with that one. So anyway,
It just might be more relaxing, though,
yeah,
right?
it is. No shoes, no socks, just sit there. Now, all this isn't necessary. You can do it sitting down right away, and you get benefits no matter how you do it in a few short minutes. First of all, like I said, you sit down with your feet shoulders width apart, feet flat on the floor, and take a couple deep breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth. Breathe into the count of 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then exhale to the count of 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You want to repeat that several times because that preps you for what you're going to do next. So we do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now there's other options of this. There are other ways of doing it. But this is the most popular way. Then the next step of this is using the hand. You want to use your right and left hand in such a way that it stimulates the cells internally, that it stimulates the vagus nerve. This is how you do it. Inhale through the nose, bring your hand up, come right up to the center of your body. I have a bad shoulder, so if my hand starts shaking here, you know that a little bit of pain goes with this. This is what I do to help the pain. Then you exhale as you come down right to the center of your body. That's where the vagus nerve travels. And just see the vagus nerve just relaxing. You can even put a face to it. Inhale through the nose, and come right down through the center. It has to be right through the center, because then you affect the left and right brain. Because on the left, action is through the right brain. On the right brain, action is through the left brain. So we inhale as we come up. Look at the hand. Okay, now exhale as we come down through the mouth, releasing any tension, looking at life as beautiful, and thinking beautiful thoughts. Let's do that again. Inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth. Relaxing as the hand comes down. Now let's do the left hand. Inhale through the nose, coming down slowly, exhale through the mouth. Coming down nice and slow, feeling totally relaxed, at ease, free from disease.
I love
do
that.
it again. Just slowly, best come up over your head, just like this, then come right down through the center, stimulating the left and right brain. And the vagus nerve loves this type of thing. It'll send out many good hormones, like oxytocin, and hormones such as that good feeling, serotonin. In fact, the vagus nerve releases a nerve, you might call it sort of like a gas. It builds up the body so that it can absorb nutrients. It gives us a jolt of electricity in our mitochondria, which is little cell factory energizers in the body. Each cell has over 1,000 of these little furnaces in it. And when you do this one, it lights up the furnaces. The vagus nerve starts doing its job. And believe it or not, from this little simple exercise done every day, 5, 10, 15 minutes a day, you can actually count on the fact that chances that you probably will live longer, healthier, and better. Other things come to be to that, it's true. But this is a big factor because it takes all the other things you're using to reduce stress and magnifies them. Because it's simple, it's easy, and it's one of the most important exercises in reducing stress that I can even muster up of all my knowledge. Nothing I have compares to that.
And we just might want to mention, for those of you that are tuning in for the first time, what we're talking about is really frequency and how you can change your own frequency by doing these exercises, among other ones. And we're going to be doing our Tai Chi classes again locally, but we're going to be sharing more of some of these exercises on our show because we know they work. And I will turn to you, my wonderful husband, and say, since we have not been actually out in the community teaching our classes, I've noticed it. I've noticed a change where my stress level was easier, I should say, compromised than when we were teaching classes. And I mean, you were teaching 5 days a week, traveling all over the community, and I was attending some of them, and we do them at home when we can, but we're also doing other things. It's like so much that you were referring to that affects the vagus nerve. And that's pretty powerful, because now even the doctors are, I had a friend, and I forget who it was, somebody said something about, I think it was their holistic doctor said, I think he was doing some muscle testing, and said that your vagus nerve is being affected. Well, there are things that we can do for the vagus nerve, and that's what you were just showing here. There's a lot of exercises in Qigong and Tai Chi that has been our way of life for 26 years. 26 years we've been doing this, because you had started the program before I even met you. And we have a certification program and everything because we believe so much in it. And what my husband does is he backs what he teaches through science, through all the research that you've done. And we've broken it down so that you can understand it rather than not understand it. You could probably give a 5-hour seminar on just the vagus nerve, and I'd probably be nodding off. But when you break it down and you talk about how important it is, and if you do a few of these simple exercises, how it can make a change. I mean, we can't make any claims to cure treat or diagnose any disease. That's not what we're trying to do here. But we are trying to give you some answers that can help you. And there's so many, I don't think there's enough hours in the show that we can do to cover everything, but that's why we kind of break it down. We have my husband's book that's almost completely gone, and so you're working on your next series. I am as well. And hopefully one day, very soon, we'll have these in print and surprise you one day. But in the meantime, as everyone says, video is the latest thing. Well, no, it's not the latest thing. It's been around for a long time, and it's the latest thing for those that have just recently discovered doing it, to promote your business, to promote information, and that's what we're here to do, is to really take this as a level of opportunity. We're using this as our platform. I think this is episode 203, Rob? 202? Okay, 202. That's right. Last week was 201 with the girls. Can you believe we're doing 202?
Time goes by fast when you're having fun.
I tell you, and we've got the best platform here to really share with people on what we're doing, and that the vagus nerve is huge, and it's related to stress, it's related to how you're eating and all of that. We'll be covering some of that as far as nutrition goes down the road in a few sessions. But one of the other things that we wanted to talk about besides the vagus nerve is what else can we do with managing our stress levels and managing our emotions. Because as a result of us being licensed and certified through HeartMath Institute, we've learned about all of the frequency, how it affects us, and how just by not being able to manage a single emotion can just trigger a whole upset for the whole day, and putting those 5 hours of bad chemicals in the system.
Yeah, well, when life's expectations do not live up to our expectations, and we fail to manage the results, we create stress. Stress is created internally.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, the responsibility of controlling stress is should not be in anybody else's shoes but your own. The key thing is to realize that you have that ability to do that by relaxing and doing what I mentioned. Then you also prepare yourselves for things that may be negative things. It might be a death of a loved one or a pet being injured. Creates really feeling of whatever that the more you love that individual, or the more that it pains. What can help you through those types of situations is to be able to realize that you can control what goes on inside of yourself. And if there is a bad situation, just when you do the vagus nerve exercise, I call it, centering is the other name, and you're doing that exercise and you're seeing good things, you picture the vagus nerve smiling and relaxing, then the tragedy, dangers of having overwhelm from the death of a loved one or an animal or whatever is not as, how would I say it, dangerous as far as ruining our health. They call it overcare. And I would always suggest is having spiritual beliefs that after our life here on earth, that we have better times going on. So when you lose the death of a loved one, it's easier to say, I'm glad that they're in a place now that there isn't any more pain and so on. That puts good chemicals into your body, and it also helps the people around you, because the best gift you can give a loved one is a good example.
Exactly. Lead by example, always. Lead by example.
Absolutely.
You know, it's interesting that you brought that up, because my next thing was going to say what actually triggers. And my husband and I had a major breakthrough yesterday. And just because we happen to be certified life coaches, it doesn't mean that we don't have our moments. And we had a discussion on something that we believe is a trigger for everyone's stress levels, and it's something that we think that maybe we can't get away from, but we can. And it's my worst four-letter word, and it's not, that other one. It's fear. It's fear. Fear of loss, fear of getting COVID, fear of, like you say, losing a loved one, fear of losing money, fear of not being able to survive, fear of COVID. I bet if I took a toll and I could see everyone out there, did we not, all of us, go through that fear? Fear of getting COVID. So what did we do to combat that? We built our support system with our immune system. And we have not had COVID, but the fear was there. It was real. Fear of losing your job, your livelihood, fear of the government, fear of politics. There's fear everywhere. In every corner of a thought is fear. So do we want to live in fear? We don't want to live in fear. And we are not living in fear. Because, first of all, we do have a very, very strong foundation of faith. But we really did talk about that at length yesterday. For us personally, what could be fearful? Well, how do we turn that around and turn that into grace and gratitude? That's the key. That really is the key.
Barbara, you can't have said it any better.
Fear.
Fear, right. Well, you can go deeper than that. You can go into quantum physics to a degree and really understand what fear is. One of the key things that helped me handle the daily, everyday little negative things that we allow to gunny sack, as I
That
call
we
it.
allow.
That we allow.
That we
That's the key.
allow. We make that choice to allow all these things to get into our mind and into our being, into our gut, our Dantian area. You're right. I'm sorry. I just had to say that. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's all
but
right.
it makes me crazy what we allow inside ourselves. No.
Now, what happened to me, it was that I was looking for answers, because I like to think of myself, rather than a Tai Chi instructor, a grandmaster, is a scientist.
A mad
Because I
one.
wanted to understand what goes on in everything in my body so that I can control it, because I don't like to be controlled by outside sources. And outside sources, they don't really control you. You control yourself by allowing them to do that. Not having a good frequency. Now, here's the part that we get into a little bit more things that very few people talk about, because the knowledge is very limited to most people, is the fact that every thought is a frequency. Every movement, this table here has a frequency. There's movement going on constantly. Every single cell, every single atom in our body is communicating with electrons, goes around the neutron at the speed of light. Enough of that goes on so that this is the reason that you can't, when we were kids, we'd take a bucket and tie a rope and swing it around, and it would just look like a wheel, like a solid object. And that happens with our bodies and so on. We have electrons that swirl around at the speed of light. They produce energy, good energy or bad energy. So everything has a frequency. In fact, there's a theory that the pyramids built in Egypt, those 200-ton boulders, were moved through frequency. They found the frequency of that boulder. Well, I wouldn't go to say that that's true, but you can oversimplify that and realize that every atom in our body has a frequency. What frequency do you want to live with? Hate has a frequency. Love has a frequency. Every movement, every word, thought. The most important word in the English language, in any language, is thought, because without it, nothing goes on, nothing comes forward, nothing goes backwards with thought. And then the three most important words are thoughts are things. So what you bring about, you think about, you bring about, you go for the frequency. Like, I love the frequency of love. I love dogs, I love cats, I love everything I can love. Not so much just to feel good, but also to be able to set a stage, to be able to help other people. Because if I don't feel good, if I'm negative, then that passes on to the other individual. So ask yourself, any given hour of the day, what is my frequency? You have you can create your own scale. 1 to 10 is good, positive, wonderful, loving, blissful, frequencies, or you can go 1 to 10 with rage. There's another thing too. If you have a spurt of anger, that raises your frequency in a negative, or I should say lower in a negative. And the interesting thing there is that sometimes can be good, because it can, so you can, as you are going throughout the day and you say to yourself, what is my frequency now? And ask yourself, am I thinking negative? Am I thinking positive? What frequency do you want to live with? Like anger has a frequency, love has a frequency, hate has a frequency, jealousy has a frequency. What frequency do you want to live with? Going to Space Mountain at Disney World, for those that love to get interleukin 2, is a frequency. So everything in life, like I mentioned, is a frequency. And I try to always, every hour, ask myself, do I feel good or do I feel bad? And if I feel bad, that's lowering my frequency. People around me, I'm affecting their frequency. That's the other sad thing. If you're negative, it affects the person next to you. They can measure the electrical energy of the heart from 12 feet away now. 12 feet away, that electrical energy affects every thought, every breath that we breathe. It sounds overcomplicated, but it's very simple. Just breathe deeply, love everything, everybody you can. Now, I know the people's thinking, how can you love somebody that's a serial killer and so on? That's way beyond my ability to be able to predict or to be able to analyze. All I would do is I'd put a thought on my what is my frequency now when I hear about this serial killer. Some people love to pick up negative frequencies. They go all over stealing other people's frequencies. And I don't allow my frequency to be stolen by anybody.
Well, and it's a choice, too. You were talking about the different frequencies with love, with hate, and some of the other things that you said. But the one interesting thing is that you cannot have two opposing emotions at the same time.
Cognitive dissonance.
Cognitive dissonance. Think about that. You cannot have hate and love at the same time, because they're two different frequencies and they're the opposite. Or fear and love. We're talking about fear. And fear, I believe in my heart of hearts, is the number one thing that triggers all of these negative emotions. So we need to figure out how to turn that around. That's why we do our heart lock-in, and we talk about going to the heart, doing some deep breathing, and thinking of a loved one or thinking of something that really makes you feel good. It automatically, how long does it take? Once you change your thought process, how quickly does that change your frequency?
Oh, almost instantly.
Almost instantly. Think about that. So, okay, so you've got the bullies in schools, the bullies on the playground, bullies in business. Huh? How about that one? Oh yeah, there's adult bullies too. I know several of them. Okay? How do we deal with that? We come from love, because love is the highest frequency, is it not?
It is, by far. It's the same frequency as the universe. The universe vibrates at 7 hertz. Love, believe it or not, is 7 hertz. How about that? In the Bible it says, get right with the universe.
That's right.
So, by understanding, knowledge is powerful. You might be sitting there thinking, oh, this guy's way out to lunch. That's all right. I love lunch. So think about all meat and all lunch you can. Because I'll keep eating and sending out those frequencies.
Yes, you will. That's a good one, Cal.
When
That's
I walk
a really
in a room,
good one.
if there's a bunch of negative frequencies, I'll leave. If I can. If I can't leave, then I'll go around looking at different people, thinking things that would be, oh, that person does this, does that. Positive things. Think of something to mentally compliment that person before you meet them or when you're meeting them. Think of, oh, I love that hairdo. No, you don't want to necessarily get into telling them, but I love that hairdo that she has.
Because that's changing your frequency.
You hit it right on the head.
And what he's saying about the Heart Math Institute being able to judge the frequency of someone's heart within 12 feet. That's quite a distance.
Yeah.
In other words, when, like you're saying, or you could be somewhere and someone walk into the room and you can feel their frequency instantly. Instantly. It's like, ooh, I'm just not feeling some good vibes. We've all done that, right? But you can change that for yourself just by changing your thoughts and getting yourself into a positivity mode, so to speak. I tell you, I love all this knowledge that we've gleaned over the years. And, sometimes it can be a challenge implementing it depending on what is happening in your life. But life is such a learning experience, and if you're open to it, and if you're willing to make changes, it can be very transformational, as it has been for us. And the thing is taking time. Taking the time. And we were talking about this last week with the Women Unscripted, taking the time to pray and pray through the day. Not just in one little box, a little segment, go, okay, I said my Our Fathers, I said my this, I said my that, okay, God's done here. No, God's not done. And it's just like how we live through the day, we're not done with dealing stress because we're going to leave the studio here, and I know we're going to face traffic, crazy traffic, or somebody that's texting when driving, and you're not supposed to be doing that, right? But you never know what kind of stresses are going to be happening in your life. So if you have the skill sets, if we can give you just a couple of skill sets that you can take with you after the show today, then we know we've succeeded, even if it's only with one person. So I know, my gosh, we've already done 3/4 of the show just about, and we still have a couple of things to talk about besides the vagus nerve. We talked about that. We talked about doing the centering, deep breathing from the Dantian area known in the martial arts, or the solar plexus. That's where our core is. And believe me when I tell you, it makes a big difference when you do deep breathing and then do these exercises. And watch what happens. Something else while I'm thinking about this, we are both on Facebook, Dennis Kelly and Barbara Marville Kelly. I put on, remember the other day when I put on the music, was it 432 megahertz? Do you remember? If it was it was either, anyway, go to my Facebook page and scroll down. It was just over the weekend, and you'll see a beautiful picture of a lotus there. Click onto that. It's on YouTube. It's on YouTube. And you'll see what I'm talking about. I don't know, Rob, if you can get that up on my Facebook page. It is absolutely phenomenal. It's called healing with a frequency, because we're talking about sound therapy. We're talking about how music can heal. How do you feel when you listen to good old-fashioned rock and roll music, or a beautiful waltz, or you listen to some serenade that is nothing but full of love? You feel that. You ingest that.
Music is the biggest thing of being able to produce love.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
When I say on your own.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
And you have a thought, you play the music, and you have the positive thought, that's a double whammy. Mm-hmm. I just want to interject. I didn't mean to interrupt. I want to interject before I forget. You know, I often tell people that you can manage your emotions even in tragic times. And I had a situation happen in my life where I had everything really going for me, and 6 major world championships in the martial arts, and having a book published, and meeting Barb 26 years ago. So everything, and making and losing and making a fortune, which was fun. And all of a sudden, the whole world changed. This gave me a chance to see how powerful this stuff really works. Not that I doubted it. Anyway, I was having some physical challenges that, without getting into them, just say I had some physical challenges that were affecting my training. And I went to the doctor to get a diagnosis. I thought I knew what it was, and I was right. And the doctor said, well, you have Parkinson's disease. And I thought to myself, oh my God, why me, Lord? Why me? I mean, I take care of myself. I do all these things for people and myself to try to help everybody. And, no, wait a minute. Why not me? Because now I will have a platform where I can show people that I can still be happy. I still can. By the way, I came out of retirement with Parkinson's and won a world championship fighting.
In 2016 at age 78.
At 87 years old.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, I'm not bragging. I'm telling you, if I can do that, and I was not a good athlete when I was young, I was a terrible athlete. If I can do that, you can do anything. Now, what is the opportunity? I can help more people, because there's more people out there that are really having a problem with Parkinson, with fibromyalgia and all those things, it helps ease the pain. It helps give you ideas that you can help other people. Be a good example. And your thoughts, that's the key. God gave us one thing that we could never, ever do without. That's thought. And if you want to take that a little step further, thoughts are things. Every thought is a thing. It's a vibration. So you control that. So by the sad part about is that if you start saying to yourself, oh, these things aren't going to work with me, what you're doing is you're killing the biggest powerful thing is your control of your thoughts. The thoughts are controlling you.
That's right. Oh, I love it when you say that. The thoughts are controlling you, and that's when we go into the fear mode. And of course, the acronym for fear is false evidence appearing real. And I've had many experiences in my life where I've overcome that fear. Remember the dog, that big black dog?
That is a funny. I love it when you tell that story.
Oh my good. Well, you know, the funniest thing is they say face your fears, right? So I was bit by a German Shepherd when I was just a young girl. I walked into my girlfriend's house and it didn't like my girlfriend standing behind me, and I got in the way and it bit me on the arm, the hand, and my backside. Well, that stuck with me. It was so traumatic, right? Well, we were going for a walk one day with our Yorkies. This was several years back. And you were supposed to walk your dogs on a leash, which we always do. Well, someone moved into the neighborhood. They actually put a doggy door in their villa. And it was one of those big, huge Newfoundlands. They looked like a big black bear. So we're walking along with our Yorkies, right? And I heard this woof, woof. I mean, it was a deep bark. And I thought, Kelly, that is a big dog somewhere, and it is outside. So what do? I'm going to face my fears. So I hand my one Yorkie to my husband. I go, stand back. I'm going to take care of this. And I did. And then that dang big old dog, and it was a puppy, so you could tell it was a big puppy. So it comes towards us, and I'm going, stand back. I'm going to take care of this. And I said, no. Just like that. I said, stop. And it turned right around, went right back. That's
really fast.
That's all I did. And, you know, I forgot about that story. But talk about facing the fears. I mean, that's just we can kind of laugh at it right now, but it could have been detrimental to our Yorkies, this big, huge black dog and our little 5-pounders, right? So I guess what we're trying to get at is life is what we make it. And when my husband talks about give yourself a gauge, and you've probably, if you're a Facebook friend, you know that I've often said, live life to a 10. The best 10 that you can, if you can't make it to a 10, then make it to a 9. But how do we get there? It's working on ourselves, like you say. Set the example, be the example, lead by example. Look around us in the world today after the last 2 years, during the 2 years, and even before that. We managed to push through this in spite of it, and in spite of my husband being in and out of the hospital numerous times with the prostate and the surgery and all of that. Believe me, it was not a picnic. As Irma Bombeck used to say, it wasn't a bowl of cherries. Believe me, life was the pits. At least it felt like that. But we came out of it, and we came out of it with flying colors. We're no spring chickens, even though we may think we are. I just turned 73. My husband's 83. He'll be going on 84 in March.
No, I am 84.
You're not 84 yet. No, it's next year. No, you're testing my brain, my memory. Yeah. So age is just a number. We always say that, and it's how we perceive things in life. Many times, you know, it's all about perception. It's about our self-talk. It's how we perceive things, how we respond or we react. This is another thing. We've only got about 6 minutes, so we got to go lickety-split here. But what I've learned in my coaching and through your lessons and all is perception is big. It's huge. I can say one thing to you right now and say the same thing in a different tone of voice. A minute later, it'll have 2 different meanings. You know what I'm talking about, right? Perception is everything. Make sure you're perceiving correctly before you make the assessment of someone or what they're saying to you, because it might not be anything that what you think it is. And those are some of the things that you really taught me, and whether or not you're going to react or you're going to respond. If you respond, then you have definitely come a long way. You've learned how to manage your emotions because you've taken the situation and you're responding rather than reacting without thinking, and you're going crazy and going from 0 to 60. You think I haven't done that? Oh, I have. I have. And I think we've all gone through these things, especially these last couple of years. I hate mentioning them because we like to forget it, but we're still massaging our lives into getting back into normalcy and all of that. So thank God, our Heavenly Father, that we have been in these skill sets for many, many, many years, and now we're giving these back to you. And it doesn't cost you anything to tune into our show. How do you like that? This is all complimentary. We're really blessed, and to have over 200 episodes already. This is very exciting. We're going to be talking more about some of our exercises down the road. Who knows, we may even do a Tai Chi class. We go tomorrow for your x-ray for the shoulder. And see if you see what the perception is there. Is it a tear? Do you need surgery? I don't know. You don't know. But we'll be back teaching and doing some seminars in the area, and most likely bringing our whiteboards in, and we have all of that to where you can actually talk about this, which is a manual. This was written, I'm in this book because my husband used me as a little guinea pig, so to speak. And when we met, didn't realize we were going to become an item, but we did. And during the time when we were really in a friendship state, he would call my house and say, "Where are you? You're supposed to be at the gym." And he was in the process of writing the book, The 6 Steps to the Fountain of Youth. And believe it or not, this went into print in 1996. I went on his program because I was working in the overnights at Home Shopping Network, and it was affecting my health and my blood pressure. And so we refer to this as a manual. And it's an old book, but it still works today. Everybody loves this. This is the kind of book that you keep by your bedside, you take out in your family room, you put it on your coffee table or wherever, and you always refer to it. The 6 steps it's exactly our program. I'm not trying to sell that book because we're running out of it, so I couldn't fulfill orders. But the next one coming out, which is really going to be how to champion the champion within, as a human being, as a mom, as a corporate entrepreneur, executive or whatever, an athlete, you've got it all covered in that.
Yeah, I haven't left anything else.
You haven't.
You could, from that book, achieve a lot of success, but I still recommend that you continue reading, because readers make better leaders, leaders make better readers. The key thing is every time you read a book of positive thinking, positive feeling, you bring another teacher, grandmaster, or whatever into your life. Just like I've often said, I quit high school. Somebody has to quit high school to provide jobs for college graduates.
Yeah, but look how far you've come with all of the empires that you have built and tore down and built back up again.
Well, I kept repeating itself because I enjoyed rebuilding.
Is that what it was?
Yeah. It took me years to discover that and realize that.
And when you stop to think about it, we're kind of rebuilding. We're in a way rebuilding. After all of the assisted living facilities shut down, all the golf course communities where we were teaching, and so many other people are rebuilding. There is hope out there. It's not all hopelessness. It's not all helplessness. Believe me when I tell you, on our chamber shows, our My Chamber TV shows, you would not believe the amount of people that have started new businesses right down here in Florida, have survived and thrived. And so if that isn't help and hope, I don't know what is. But we have less than 2 minutes, my dear. Give us a final quick one.
Okay. I like to show people how they can using ancient secrets of the mind. Build an empire with a single thought. With a single thought, you can build an empire by using ancient secrets of the mind, and they're not so secrets anymore. It was held secret for years by the Asians. Now it's not secret, but most people don't realize the power of what they're doing, and they a lot of times use it the wrong way. So I wanted to throw that in because this is one of the things that I've been able to do, is take the martial arts, put it into how to do it, relate it to business, and use the techniques in martial arts. And somebody might think, well, does that mean beat somebody up so they don't make your decision, so they don't give you their money? That's business. So anyway, I thought I'd throw that in there and get a last laugh.
Well, I tell you, I love doing these shows, and we will be here as long as you will listen to us. And if you would like to hear anything in particular, we love to pour our hearts out to you guys, and we thank you for joining us on Prime Time. And we wished we could have been here during some of those crazy dark hours in the last couple of years, but we're back. So the past doesn't equal the future. Our future, all of our futures, look bright. Remember to pray, remember to love one another, and know there is a miracle out there that can be very beneficial to you. That's from Ed Purser, HSN. Thanks, love you all, God bless. We'll see you next time.